if things continue for the next 2 weeks like they have been, we might see most of the dealers having a 50% increase in sales, which would make it a record Ramadan, I think.
So I did a bit of work yesterday and tried to pretend to be a normal consumer. I'm coming into the country, I'm trying to do my research. And this is where I think the industry absolutely misses an opportunity.
Perfect. Welcome back to the AutoTalk podcast, Craig.
Welcome back, Glenn. How you been?
Pretty good. How's everything with you?
Very good. Ramadan Kareem to you.
Ramadan Kareem. And that sounds like the topic of today's episode.
It is. It's everything Ramadan. I'm enjoying Ramadan so far. Schools start a bit later, which is nice. So I actually had breakfast with my children this morning without having to shout at them and scream at them.
Good.
And they asked me what I was doing today. And I told them I was doing a podcast on Ramadan. And they're only 10 years old. And their first question was, well, how many followers do you have?
Most important metric.
Yeah. So I didn't compare to Mr. Beast, apparently.
But we're close.
But I did say 18,000 people saw our last podcast, which didn't impress them at all.
Okay.
And then they grilled me then. They pretended they were interviewing me for Ramadan podcast. And they grilled me.
Well, the good news is I'll probably be easier than them, Craig.
Well, I'm prepared. They have got me good to go, so you can ask me whatever you like on this now.
Well, let's dive right in. I guess we're halfway through Ramadan at the point of recording. What does the automotive industry look like halfway through Ramadan 2025?
Well, I think at high level it looks very healthy. I think it started very well. I think I got my BI guy. Thank you very much, Saad, to provide as much data as he could on what we're seeing so far this year, what we saw previous years, what we could be seeing after Ramadan. I then had a day on ChatGPT where I just basically threw everything at it and asked it a million questions. And this shows you how complicated this market is and how difficult it is to predict. Because after I put in everything I thought about, do you know what ChatGPT said to me?
I'm guessing it just exploded.
This is the God's honest truth. It actually gave up and said, look, I think you need to hire a consultant to do some research in the market because we cannot go any further with these questions. It literally gave up. So that just shows you how complicated this market is and how many variables there are.
Well, let's try and decode it before the end of this episode.
Well, if we do, we've done a wonderful thing. But I thought, what are the impacts that can really impact a dealer's performance on Ramadan? So obviously one is time of the year. So there's another Ramadan in winter. If you think about last year, there's the first one in 11, 12 years, right? Yeah. So winter obviously has an impact because people can still go out. They can see cars. Yeah. They're not traveling. The second thing is population increase.
Yep.
So we know there's more people here, more people on the roads. So that's going to have an impact. What else do we know? We know that the Spring Bank holiday is going to be following Eid.
Yeah.
It's during Eid, sorry. And then
end of June, I think it is.
Actually, the kids break up from holiday in 2 weeks.
Okay.
End of this week, I think.
Oh, okay.
I better get ready for that. But,
I was thinking summer holiday, I think.
Yeah. So they've got the end of term. So they're going to have a 2-week holiday during Eid. So people are going to travel. That's going to have an impact. The weather.
Yep.
We've had some foggy days. Does that impact on people's buying behavior? I think there's a lot of things to consider when trying to work out what's going on. But high level, we saw a fantastic week, first week of Ramadan. Demand was super high. We saw growth in the premium sector, so cars 250,000 to 350,000.
Okay.
We saw 50-60% growth on previous year.
Okay.
Over 1 million dirham cars, we saw 21% growth.
Amazing.
Private ad volume, so people selling their cars with us, grew year on year. So it's definitely been a great active market first couple of weeks.
So shaping up to be a bumper Ramadan, you think?
I think so, yeah. Look, I mean, we'll dig into a bit more data through the podcast, but there's some interesting dynamics going on around new cars, hybrid, EVs. We'll dig into that a bit later. But what are you seeing from?
We're seeing similar. I think, I remember last year when we were looking at it, we sort of said, dealers sell 20, 30% more cars. Well, we think it's going to be even bigger than that this year. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen the dealers that use our software are valuing 50% more cars now than what they would in a normal month.
And why are they doing that? What is that? That's for trade-ins or what?
Yeah, for trade-ins.
Okay.
And so you can, there's normally a direct correlation. If they're valuing 50% more cars, they're selling 50% more new cars. So we think versus a normal month, if things continue for the next 2 weeks like they have been, we might see most of the dealers having a 50% increase in sales, which would make it a record Ramadan, I think.
And are you seeing any trend in terms of manufacturer or you are? So
No, I think it's across the board.
across the board.
Yeah, I think intuitively the Chinese manufacturers are having a great year, but they're starting off a small base. And I think equally all the traditional manufacturers are doing extremely well. The luxury manufacturers are doing very well. Because I think, especially as you move up into that premium segment, car purchasing becomes a little bit more discretionary. You don't have to buy a four-door SUV to drop the kids to school. A new BMW or Mercedes or Audi is a bit more of a discretionary purchase. It'd be nice to have a new luxury car.
Yeah.
And so those buyers can afford to wait for Ramadan and get the best deal of the year.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with that. And I think in that price band of 250,000 plus, firstly, there's a lot of choice to start off with.
There is, yeah.
Secondly, that's not where the Chinese manufacturers are playing.
No.
Yeah, and we're seeing definitely a move towards new cars. So new cars, in terms of new cars listed on our platform, have seen the biggest growth year on year during Ramadan that we saw previously. And the interesting dynamic we're seeing there is actually the ones that are growing the fastest. Firstly was American cars, which I didn't expect to see, but American premium cars.
Is that like a Cadillac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Those kind of products, Chevys, Tahoes, those kind of cars we're seeing good growth. The big petrol SUVs.
Well, I was about to say, are you putting Tesla in the bucket of an American premium car?
I actually did this research to look at what we're seeing. Tesla, we haven't seen the impact in this market, Tesla, that other markets are seeing. So
the new car sales impact, you mean?
For the new car impact, I mean, used cars, we've discussed that before. Yeah. It's dreadful. But for new car demand, we've checked Google Trends, we've checked our own trends. Actually, Tesla's performing the same as it was pre-bus, post-bus, right? So we haven't seen the change there. But when we look at new cars from other countries, Chinese electric cars, yes, huge growth on that. We're seeing 70% growth in demand year on year. A lot of that's down to there's just a lot more models available.
Yeah, the pie's getting bigger, isn't it?
100%. And then hybrid. And of course, we're going to talk about hybrid on another podcast, and we're going to go into a bit more detail about that. But hybrid is just absolutely smashing it at the moment, I think. Yeah. And being dominated, as you would expect, by the Japanese, because the Japanese have got a good range of hybrid vehicles, but also Chinese. BYD now are coming in strong.
Yeah.
If I look at our top 10 hybrid where it's in demand, BYD are 3 of the top 10 now.
Amazing.
Which is pretty cool. And they've got some good products.
Okay.
So I think that's an interesting dynamic. We also looked at Google Trends to find out what people are searching for when they're thinking about Ramadan and automotive. So I suppose we've all got some assumptions. What would you assume people are looking for?
Definitely, if it was me, it would be best deal Ramadan, cheapest new car, cheapest BMW, cheapest Mercedes. How can I buy a Ferrari cheap in Ramadan? That's what I dream of Google searching every night.
The cheap Ferrari. Yeah, good luck. Well, you probably can find a cheap Ferrari, but I wouldn't want to buy it. Well, I would agree, right? I would have thought you'd have seen price, cheap, discount, those kind of words.
Yeah.
The biggest one is finance.
Okay.
Right?
They want finance deals, or they're not sure if they can finance?
They want finance deals.
Okay.
So 100% finance, zero, lowest interest rate.
Yeah.
Those kind of things, all connected with Ramadan sales. And I think that is interesting because when I look at the new car advertising, they're all focused on 0%, excellent deals over 5 years, blah, 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 blah.
I was just about to say, I think all the banks and the dealers have stepped up on that this year, as they have most years. I think it's a combination of the banks are coming to the market providing a good deal. They're trying to win market share in the auto loans. And then when the dealers are constructing their Ramadan offerings, they're not just thinking dollar discount, free window tint, free registration, extended warranty. They're also thinking subsidized interest rates, repayment holidays for 6 or 12 months. You're seeing that more and more in the market, and it sounds like they're probably responding to consumer demand then.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, I'm sure we'll discuss finance on another podcast, but I think finance is so important in this marketplace, and it's such a missed opportunity, especially for new expats that are coming into the country, probably want a new car as their first car, probably are a bit cash strapped, right? Because, you know, you've got your school fees and you've got your villa to pay for and everything else. And, you know, so therefore to have finance would be amazing. So definitely an opportunity, but that's what consumers are searching for. So I did a bit of work yesterday and tried to pretend to be a normal consumer. I'm coming into the country. I'm trying to do my research. And this is where I think the industry absolutely misses an opportunity, because if I go into a dealership, I should get a great experience. When I'm online and I'm doing finance and I find this great deal, and I won't pick on the manufacturers that I was looking at, but you find these great deals, they're in Google, great deals, you click on it, you go to a landing page.
Yeah.
You go on the landing page and it goes, amazing, 0% deposit, over 5 years, blah, 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 blah. Nothing about the car, right? So then you have to try and find the car.
Yeah, back on the main website.
You have to go back onto the main website.
Yeah.
Try and find stuff about the car that doesn't mention anything about the finance.
Yeah, you've forgotten what the deal is now.
Then I have to go back to the finance page.
Yeah.
And then it asks me 4 or 5 questions, right? And I just think dealers, OEMs have got to be better about that digital experience, because in this market especially, consumers expect an amazing digital experience.
Yeah.
Regardless of how good your product is, they expect a great digital experience. And I didn't find one in my 3 hours of car shopping yesterday that I thought, my God, that's a stand-up. You know, that gave me everything I needed.
Yeah.
Gave me the finance deal, gave me the information about the car in detail, enabled me to have a great experience online, and then convert me to a test drive.
Yeah.
So there's a huge opportunity there, I think, for anyone who gets that right.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of open space.
Yeah, massively, massively. So look, I think sorry, you were...
Oh, I was just going to say, just thinking, you know, we're halfway through Ramadan. We've got a couple of weeks left. You know, by the time you're listening to this, it might be post-Ramadan. What would be your takeaways to if you're a car dealer, to capitalize on this next 2, 4, 8 weeks coming into before we hit that summer break?
Yeah, and look, on the summer break, I mean, again, we did some analysis last year of what happened when Ramadan finished, and then we went to the end of school holidays, and we saw a 20% drop-off almost instantly. The weekend that the schools broke up, we saw almost a 20% decline in demand.
Wow.
And that stayed pretty stable through the whole 2 weeks, and then picked up massively there in the first week people are back. So I suppose the first thing advice I'd give is, I think we're going to follow that trend. So dealers should get ready for that.
Yep.
That shouldn't be a surprise. You know, school holidays means that demand will drop. I think the demand we're seeing for premium vehicles will maintain. I think, you know, and that it's very difficult for a dealer to suddenly go out and acquire premium stock, right? So I'm not expecting that. But I think any dealer that's sitting on premium stock, you know, make sure you do spend the money to promote those cars as hard as you possibly can, because there is a window there to push those cars quickly.
Yeah.
I think, secondly, think about the experience, the digital experience for the consumer. So it's all well and good offering fantastic deals, but actually if your website doesn't reflect those deals, if consumers find it hard to get, if that isn't synced up when the consumer actually comes to you and gets a bad experience, you can lose all that trust and all that benefit that you've been pushing in the dealership. I think you know, the big takeaway for me would be get data, right? You can get data from us, and you can get data from you. We're not here to push that, but get as much data as you can, because everything we spoke about earlier, there are so many variables in this market now.
Yeah.
Working with assumption and working on what you've done previously is not going to get you to success. You know, you're going to need a lot more data and insights to help you think about how you promote stock, how you buy stock, how you price stock, because the market is moving very, very quickly.
Yeah. No, I think there's some really good takeaways there.
All right.
All right. Great episode.
Very good.
We'll see you next time.
Until the next one.
Thanks, Craig.
Bye.